Hello and welcome to another episode of All Elite Arcade, your home for video game discussions here at AEW Games. I am Evil Uno, and I am here with the Chugs.
Yes, how's it going, Uno?
You know what? I'll be honest, and I don't know if my voice will sound this way, but I've been sick this week, so I'm an exhausted man. Maybe my voice will sound a little rattly today, but otherwise, I'm doing pretty okay. I'm doing okay. What about yourself?
Well, by the way, I think you sound great.
Oh,
I'm
thank
sorry
you.
that you're a little under the weather. That's obviously never fun, but I'm doing good. Uno, I am very, very close to finally getting ready to move. I have a huge move that I'm doing here in
the coming week. In the coming week.
Yeah. Oh, within 24 hours at this point. So as probably the visual listeners can see in the background with me with my stuff that's kind of packed up, but very exciting. I'm moving from Florida to Pennsylvania. Beyond excited for that, which is cool. But most importantly, what I am most excited for is to build the ultimate game room, Uno. I cannot wait to build like the coolest game room. I have so many different ideas, so many different concepts in my mind that I can't wait to eventually show off, whether it's here on All Elite Arcade or on YouTube or any social media platform. Very excited to show it off at some point.
Do you have a general idea? We doing neons? You doing LED backlightings? What are you thinking?
So the biggest thing for me is, again, I am, Uno, I know that you know this, and I know that some of our listeners know this, but I am a big collector when it comes to the history of video games. So to me, this entire concept of building almost a museum-esque game room is something I've been thinking about for a long time, like starting with Generation 1 and working the whole way up to Generation 9, which is the generation we're currently in. So really the general idea is just to display all these different consoles, all these different games in a way that really respects the history of gaming and showcases it. Of course, I would love the idea of getting really cool lighting set up and different like figures and things like that. But I am really, really excited to be able to put it all on display. It's probably going to take a long time. I'm gonna be honest.
I would think so, right? You're starting from scratch, of course. Are you thinking of also connecting them? Like, I did this in my previous home. I didn't do it in this one, but all of my systems were connected to a switcher board, and so at any time I could just switch to any of the consoles and turn them on to play on my TV. So like I think I had 11 consoles connected at the time. It makes for, especially if you're capturing content, which you do on occasion. It's a good time. It's a good time.
Well, Uno, what I'm excited about too, because I was thinking about this. Of course, I'm going to have my streaming set up with my PC. Which again, huge shout out to NVIDIA and Corsair. This recently got announced or got released.
Actually, I saw the video. Yes.
This custom built Halo inspired PC that is a powerhouse of a PC and one of the coolest things ever. And I do want to say this quickly to touch on this, but it was so cool. In addition to the energy sword that's on the PC and also the cracked Master Chief helmet, which is from Halo 5, on the back of the helmet, it has my achievements list. And the achievements list is from when I 100% completed Halo 5, which is one of the most important games, if not the most important game to me, as far as my gaming history goes. So the PC means a ton to me. But anyway, of course, I'm going to showcase my streaming setup and the current gen. But I even thought before with like the 4th gen or the 16-bit consoles of like getting an old CRT TV.
Yes.
Hook
Go the
up
whole way.
the Genesis or the Super Nintendo. You got it.
Of course. I mean, now's your chance to I've always wanted to do the same thing. I still have not, but like I want to do that. I want to get an arcade cabinet. I've always wanted an arcade cabinet of my own.
Yes.
So I'm excited for you. I know that's moving is terrifying. I know we talked off the podcast about especially moving your collectibles and all the fragile content. But I'm sure once it is settled and it's done, it'll be very exciting to start building together like your future man cave or tribute to video games.
Yes, and Uno, I'm so glad you brought that up because inside I am so nervous, so incredibly nervous about these precious things, these precious collectibles that I'm afraid are going to somehow get damaged within the move, but they're not. We're putting out positive vibes. Everyone listening, All Elite Arcade, also putting out positive vibes that my stuff, my collectibles, they're going to be safe and sound and ready to go and ready to be put on display.
That's
exactly.
Right. And
exactly.
we'll all be laughing and joyous when you share your man cave pictures with nothing broken, nothing at all.
Right.
Nothing but good vibes out there.
Yeah, right.
So, of course, you're moving right now. So, just so that we disclose this, both yourself and myself have been traveling, or you're moving and you're packing. So we have not.
You've also been very busy.
I've been very busy. I've been to Calgary, I've been to Portland, I've been back to Canada and back to America, and so on and so forth. And so I have not played a whole lot of video games. If I'm being frank, I've played 3 hours of Danganronpa 3. And so I played one class trial, and so the people who understand that reference, kudos to you. So a very minute amount of the video game, so just a little portion of the story. I'm still enjoying the game going forward. I know you have. I don't even think you've played anything, right?
So I've not played anything on home console.
Yes.
Nothing from my Steam Deck. But I will say, with all the travel and signing the papers and getting ready for this move, I still have found time to game. I always try to, even when it's only a little bit. And I know I've mentioned this game before, but I am subscribed to the Apple Arcade stuff on iOS. And let me tell you, it's only been in very small increments. I think total this week, I've gamed maybe 30 minutes, but all 30 minutes of that time has been with Jetpack Joyride 2.
Oh, heck yeah.
I'm telling you, what a fun, easy to pick up mobile game that I still enjoy to this day. The interesting thing too about this game is when you finish the main story, which is very extensive and has different boss fights and really interesting story, you can actually play through it 5 times, and then you unlock something special each time that you play through the story mode 1 time. So I recently unlocked my second time of finishing the campaign. So I have a really cool jetpack, a really cool skin, a cool avatar. But yeah, that's been about it, Uno. So I'm telling you now, and I'm sure you agree, once we get some time to kind of settle down and relax, oh my goodness, I am going to game so much.
Oh, I can't wait.
so much.
The next time I have a 3 days where I'm sitting in one location, I will be nothing but, please. My heart needs it, I believe.
I agree. Well, I need it too, Uno.
You know what? I wish it for both of us for next week. Let's hope next week we come back and we've played a bunch of video games. But at least we have a lot of video games to look forward to, because we're already in the second half. We're in July. We're in the second half of the year, 2024, the year of the video game. The year started off hot. We had Elden Ring. Oh my God, we had Balatro. We had all kinds of stuff that came out in the first few months. But now we look forward. There's more video games coming around the corner. And I actually wanted to, both of us, discuss the games that we might be excited for in the next 6 months of release. I've listed a few on my side. I know you have as well. How do you want to go about this? You want to go back, forth?
I like the idea of back and forth. Okay, if you're okay with that.
Of course. Well, then let me be the first. Coming out in September, which I'm very, very excited for. The premiere title, I think, for the PlayStation 5 in this catalog year right now. Astrobot is coming to PlayStation 5. It's a 3D platformer of the way of the Mario or Daxter or any 3D platformer that might be yours, Spyro, Crash Bandicoot, so on and so forth. This one is based on that free game that came out with the PS5, or also the VR missions from Astrobot. It's the same studio. They are now making an Astrobot full game, and what makes me so excited about this is it looks whimsical, it looks stunning, it looks like a good time. Like, there will be no bad vibes, there will be no stress with this video game. I remember playing through the free PS5 game that came at launch and just being happy the entire time, be it the music, be it like the cameo stuff within the video game, and above everything else, like of course I'm super excited for a bunch of new levels, a bunch of new planets, new mechanics, but, and we've talked about this before, no video game has been as good on the haptic feedback for the PS5 controller as the Astrobot game, and so I'm so excited to see if I am nearly as amazed now. What has it been, 4 years now since the PS5 had launched?
Yeah, 2020, November of 2020.
So four years deep, and I feel, other than the launch title of Astrobot, no one's really taken full advantage of it, and so I'm willing to bet they will because that was a tour de force when it came to that controller. So yeah, very excited for early September because Astrobot coming out to PS5.
Uno, I completely agree, by the way. I just want to say, as far as a game I'm looking forward to, that one is certainly on my list.
Oh,
and
yes.
like you had said, like we've discussed before, the haptic feedback, when used properly, feels like an absolutely wild next-gen concept. And the Astro games have done such an unbelievable job. So I know that this new Astro game is going to be awesome, especially when it comes to the haptic feedback. And obviously, it feels like a love letter to PlayStation as well, which is really, really cool. But one that I'm really looking forward to, which actually comes out at the end of August, so almost a month away.
Soon.
Yeah, is Star Wars Outlaws.
Yes,
like, I am.
I just
so
saw that
excited.
they've gone platinum, or like they're officially pressing the discs, which means that the game is completed, other than a few patches that are going to happen at launch.
Right, exactly. But again, I'm a fan of Star Wars. I wouldn't say that I'm someone that knows like every single aspect of the Star Wars universe, but I really, really do love Star Wars as movies, and definitely as games. Like Jedi Survivor and Jedi Fallen Order are two of my favorite games that I played in recent memory. I love those games, and Star Wars Outlaws just seems incredible to me. Again, the idea of an open world Star Wars game within the Star Wars universe seems incredible to me, and from what I've seen, it seems like it's going to be really good. So I'm very excited for that one.
Yeah, I believe this was the one that they've spent almost a decade working on with
Yes.
writers from Uncharted, and this has been teased as like one of the largest, or at least the most realized Star Wars game in quite some time, and I'm very excited for it.
And I will say this, I mean it. If it lives up to the hype that this game has around it, I truly believe it has the potential to win Game of the Year.
Oh, I think so too, especially with the fandom that is around Star Wars.
Yes.
And also like the Uncharted series and that style of video game, first person.
Exactly.
Like a third person story video game with open world mechanics. I think it could very well be. I think we're definitely discussing in the top 10 regardless, but it could be the number one too. Because it's strong video game year as of yet. It's pretty insane. My next one on my list is, this one's a little on the smaller side, but I've been championing this video game for a year or two now. Xbox showcased this, I believe, not last year, but the previous year. They also showcased it last year and this year. But Little Devil Inside, which has what I like about it is actually the art style. I'm completely oblivious to the gameplay other than it being an RPG. Where you have to take little train systems and you're essentially little wooden characters that go around the map to go into villages. And then when you go into the villages, it comes into a 3D realized kind of 3D animated, more so than like it's not realistic. But I believe it's a third-person action game with like, but seen from ISO like kind of a roguelike style, like from an upward angle, and it looks very cute. It looks stunning and original in a way that like I think years from now we'll go back and it has that type of art style that doesn't matter 10 years from now, it'll still be pretty. So I'm very excited to see what comes of it. They've been pretty silent on it recently, but they have said it comes out this year, and so I'm hoping it will be out in the next few months.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That's another one. I have a feeling we're going to agree on a lot of these titles.
I think so too. We're going to play all of these. I'm well aware.
We are. We really are. But speaking of one that I'm excited about, again, you can't go wrong with this franchise, but it's The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. Yes. I'm super excited for. Again, the idea and the concept that we saw recently with this Nintendo Direct of Link being the one in trouble and Zelda being the character that you are playing as. I know we discussed this when we discussed the Nintendo Direct, but I feel like this has been a long time coming.
I think so too.
I've been waiting for a game like this for such a long time, and so many fans have. And from what I've seen, it seems not only incredible, but so different. Like, I just love... Nintendo is so good, so often, about constantly, like, changing the concept or changing the idea of the way that you play their games. To me, every time they are so ahead of the curve, whether it's open world or platforming or first person shooter or like first person shooter with Metroid Prime or what have you, they always are changing their franchises and their ideas in such an interesting, exciting way. And I think with Echoes of Wisdom, it does seem like a really cool, really fun concept. So
yeah, that copy mechanic where you're using like objects to solve puzzles, and anything you've interacted with, including enemies, you can reproduce, and you can reproduce multiple times over. Like, they've never done anything like this. Nintendo never, like, they could be lazy, and they have been at some points, but they're always trying to innovate. They're always moving forward in one direction or another.
That you said it better than even I was trying to say it. It's so true. They really do constantly innovate and move forward in different ways, whether it's with their hardware or with their franchises and their software. But yeah, this game is for sure one that I want to check out, and I have a very strong feeling it's going to be a super fun experience. Also, side note, I love that the art style looks like the Link's Awakening remake, because that Link's Awakening remake was such a joy to play.
Yeah, I forgot, but I did not complete that. I might actually go back and finish it.
You gotta.
Yes, that's a good one. I really enjoyed it, and the art style was predominantly what I was interested in. So this one seems like it has more depth to it as well, since it's not a remaster of an old Game Boy game. And so I'm very excited for this one. My last one on my list, this one is from ATLUS, the people that make Persona. They've made Persona for the last decade. They don't do a lot of other games, Catherine being one of their previous games that got a decent amount of acclaim. But this year, the team that does Persona is working on Metaphor ReFantazio, which is a turn-based RPG, much similar to the Persona games. It has their incredible art style, but this one has more of a fantasy vibe to it rather than like a high school vibe or like a real life sim vibe that some of the Persona ones have. And this one, what always attracts me about these Persona games is I know, or rather the ATLUS games, is they're going to touch some really heavy subjects, but also they have a sense of style like no other developer. So like half of what makes Persona so good is how nice it looks, right? How the drawn art is, how the color selection is, their overlay menus, how they appear, the fact that when you beat someone, a bunch of custom graphics jump on screen to go into the result screens. They've really like cornered a part of the JRPG world where they have their own style, and now their styles blend into every other game. And so this one's a brand new one. They're not going to, obviously it's going to be adjacent to Persona because it's from the same people, but I'm really excited to see what their new approach is going to be to this JRPG that's going to make it different from other ones. And that comes out in I believe October, and so very, very soon as well.
Well, speaking of October, and speaking of covering heavy subjects, another game for me that I am so excited to explore is the Silent Hill 2 remake, which is supposed to come out October 8th, Uno. So again, many people regard Silent Hill 2 as one of, if not the greatest psychological horror video games of all time, and rightfully so. Again, this game is incredibly heavy, but also incredible as is. So, and from what I've seen, especially recently, they did a 15-minute gameplay trailer of the Silent Hill 2 remake, and it looks great. Graphically, it looks amazing. The voice acting was great. The gameplay looks great. This game is going to be an experience, and I'm very excited at the idea of people who maybe have never experienced Silent Hill 2 to be able to jump into this, because this is a game that sticks with you forever. The original Silent Hill 2 was so impactful, so powerful for so many of us, and to think we're going to be able to replay it on the PlayStation 5 in 9th gen has me really, really excited. So I'm both horrified and I can't wait for the Silent Hill 2 remake.
I really hope it has the similar impact that the Resident Evil remakes had, where
I do too.
Once they come out, you that's the definite version for you to play. You know, like if you enjoyed the previous version, you can still play it. It's its own thing, but every part of it is in this new one, and then it's expanded upon. So I'm hoping the Silent Hill 2 one is the way to go. And on the subject, I didn't mention this earlier, but there is another remake coming out. We have Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater that's getting a remake this year as well.
Have to mention that.
So like I hope these become the definite versions of how to play these games, because there's some fully realized stories that like a lot of people have not played because of their previous generations. But now the beauty is, and I'm of two minds, I think sometimes remakes are unnecessary. I want new things, but I will make exceptions when they're incredible games that I just want to be capable of playing again without like all the rust of 25 years of video games. So yeah, very excited for both of these remakes.
I completely agree. We are in such a spoiled time for like our age group of people who have loved video games their whole life, because in addition to getting these amazing new IPs, you just saying that made me think of like, again, RE2 remake, FF7 remake, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater remake,
Shadow of the Colossus was out too.
Yes, so many amazing experiences that, again, even if you're a new gamer, and experiencing these games for the first time, they're amazing. But for guys like us and so many of our listeners as well who have played these games before, it is such a treat to re-experience them with new fidelity and new graphics and on a new generation.
Well, we'll be talking more about video games and the news of the week right after this. And we're back. Welcome back to All Elite Arcade. Hey, it's July, and we've got a lot of news that came out this week, including AEW actually has some news. AEW and Adult Swim are partnering for Comic-Con in San Diego for Battle for the Booty, a pro wrestling tournament that will be happening Thursday, July 25th at 7:30 p.m. at San Diego Comic-Con. It will be taking place at the Adult Swim's Pirate Party that is across the street from Comic-Con. And it will feature a tournament of AEW personalities versus Adult Swim personalities, including Johnny TV and Taya Valkyrie versus Meatwad from Aqua Teen, which I have no idea how that Meatwad is going to wrestle, but I'm very excited to see. And Fang from Primal and Orange Cassidy and Willow Nightingale will face Rachel from YOLO and Mr. Frog from Smiling Friends. Get your chance. It is fully open to the public. You don't even need an SDCC badge to go. More information, adultswim.com/SDCC2024. I wish I could go. I'll be honest.
I know.
I've never been to a San Diego Comic-Con. Have you?
No, I have not. But I would also love to be able to attend one. I would love to. Yeah, that sounds awesome. That sounds like something you don't want to miss for sure.
No, for sure. And something very unique that you can only get through the world of AEW, I guess. But anyways, news from the video game world. The big piece of news for this week is that the hottest topic right now is that Microsoft is hiking the price of Xbox Game Pass. They made a slew of changes here, so I'm going to try to simplify this. But the price of Xbox Game Pass tiers is going up from about 25%. That is with the timing of launch of Black Ops 6. So Black Ops 6, which is going to be day one, it is rumored that this is why these changes are happening. So Xbox Game Pass, which was previously $16.99, is now going to be $19.99. Yeah. Game Pass Standard, which is a new offering, this will have a limited library of Xbox games, so will not include day one titles. So Call of Duty will not be in there. Any of those independents or Xbox first studios that come out on day one will not be part of this tier. That's $14.99. There's the PC Game Pass, so that is strictly PC games. That goes from $9.99 up to $11.99. And then there's the console one, which is strictly console. That's going to stay at $10.99. That also has a limited library and has day one pass. So just so everyone understands, the $10.99 options will have access to day one game. There is a $9.99 one that will not have it. But if you want the PC version as well, that's the one that is the full standard pass. That's $14.99. Very confusing. honestly, there's too many Xbox Game Passes already. But I understand. I mean, they are offering a lot of video games. I know the inflation has been crazy on everything. Netflix has just gone up recently. Prime is going up in price. Google, Hulu are going up in price. Almost every digital service is going up in price, not to mention just the cost of life. So I'm not entirely surprised this is happening. Yeah. But adding these different tiers makes it very confusing because there's already 3 tiers to begin with. So to add an extra tier on both PC and console that does not have day one for what was the original price before, it's very confusing. It's going to be a confusing couple months, I think. And a lot of people the rumors is that this is because Black Ops is coming out around that time, and that's usually a huge sale item for Activision, which is now owned by Microsoft. And they believe graphing people to the Xbox Game Pass is more important than selling Call of Duty itself. And the hope is, I guess, that more people will join Game Pass and stick around at this higher rate, and they will generate revenue. Sure. I mean, I'm not mad. It was bound to happen. We're all going to end up paying more for all of these services. You're getting an insane amount of video games monthly for a very low price. I just wish it wasn't as confusing as it is now.
Yeah. Uno, based on what you're saying, again, obviously it's never ideal for the consumer to hear that pricing goes up for anything. Of course, and we wish we lived in a world where stuff like this didn't happen. But again, like going even deeper than gaming and looking at something like inflation, this to me was something that was to be expected. Yeah. Kind of like you had mentioned as well. And even though the different price tiers are confusing, I do appreciate that Xbox and Microsoft has gone out of the way to make it as accessible as possible for people. You know, I think in that sense, if you don't want to do the new $19.99 a month, you do have different avenues and different ways to be able to play these games, obviously. But to me, the Xbox Game Pass is such an unbelievable deal, even with the increase in price.
I agree.
I really do believe that. But again, of course, you wish that wasn't the case, but this is something to be expected as time goes on. And I do think Xbox Game Pass will see an increase in users as time goes on. I really do think that, especially with all these new titles they're going to have day one.
They have a decent catalog of video games coming out in the next year. You know, because we just saw their digital press release recently, and by far they had the craziest lineup of video games for the next year compared to PlayStation and Nintendo. So I'm hoping this gamble actually works for them. It sucks that it's more expensive, but like we said, it's to be expected. Life is more expensive in general, and like we're seeing an insane amount of layoffs in the video game world. So one way or another, it looks like the video game world's generating a lot of revenue, but it's not actually sustaining itself. So hopefully this actually helps out Microsoft in a way, and we could see a future with more Game Pass stuff and a healthier video game world for sure.
And more devs and stuff like that. Absolutely. Completely agree.
Another piece of news, this one's a little weird one. Nintendo just dropped a teaser for a full-blown horror game. That is there's a surprisingly creepy teaser called Emio that was dropped on the Nintendo channel, and this would be Nintendo's first-party release of an M-rated horror game. It's first time since, I believe, Bayonetta 3 in 2022, but this one is horror-focused. They've only ever released, first-party, they've only ever released 8 M-rated games, that being, the first one being Eternal Darkness for the GameCube, Ninja Gaiden 3, Razor's Edge, Geist, Bayonetta 1, 2, and 3, Fatal Frame, which was in 2015, and Devil's Third on the Wii U. So this is their first horror game in quite some time, and the teaser looks very interesting. I like the mysterious approach because they're not telling us a lot of stuff other than saying, hey, Nintendo's doing a horror game. And once again, coming back to our previous part of our podcast, our conversation, Nintendo likes to innovate, and so I'm very curious to see what their approach to a horror game is in the year of 2024. And no date announced, No gameplay shown quite yet, but the teaser is enough for me to be very excited.
Oh yeah, me as well. Again, this to me was so shocking to read about and to see, but at the same time, I don't know why I'm surprised based on our discussion of how Nintendo constantly is innovating and changing and doing things differently. But I'll tell you right now, I am beyond intrigued at the idea of checking this game out. Even though the trailer was very open-ended, it leaves a lot for the imagination in that sense. But again, Nintendo does such an amazing job of making incredible titles. I am for sure checking out this new IP M-rated horror game from Nintendo. There's no way I'm not going to play it.
I need to know what it is. I need to know.
I know. I need to know.
Do you think this is a game that we see on Switch 2? Or do you think this is a Switch proper release?
Good question. At this point, I was so convinced that we were going to have an announcement for the Switch 2 already. Mm-hmm. And we still haven't, even with Nintendo coming out and saying they're not going to. So, I really don't know. But as far as my guess, I feel like there is... I mean, I think it was already discussed, right? That they said this year, or was it just the Nintendo
it'll be
Direct?
by March of next year, the console release. But they said that they will not... Only for that Direct that we had this summer, they will not be talking about it. So they'll probably talk about it soon.
Sure.
I bet you this sunsets the Switch. Like, this feels like a thing, like a last hurrah. Like, we're doing something crazy and hardcore and different. Get it on the Switch, hopefully. But if it's a Switch 2 launch title, that could also be very interesting.
That could be cool. But Uno, I agree with you. I think this will almost be a swan song.
I think
or
so.
One of the swan song games for the original Switch. I agree.
I think it'll be this and probably Metroid and maybe some other game we haven't been told about quite yet.
Right. Definitely Metroid.
Very excited for that and the future of Nintendo. Here, this one's from the rumor mill. This came from a now deleted LinkedIn page requesting a motion capture animator for a unannounced remake at 2K. Now, what does this mean? We're strictly talking rumors here, but 2K's main games right now are BioShock, Darkness, XCOM, Mafia, Spec Ops, and Borderlands. Borderlands has a movie coming out recently. Or
can't wait.
Is coming out later this year, I believe. Or early next year, one of the two.
Yeah. I
think, because none of it has been disclosed yet, this is just us discussing rumors, it has to be either Borderlands or BioShock.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Uno. And we didn't even talk about this before the podcast, but I was literally going to say the same thing. It has to be Borderlands or BioShock. I feel like Borderlands with the movie coming out makes the most sense. Right.
Yeah, that'd be like especially like if you're making a remake of the first, or even you could couple first and second together. If that drops currently, I feel like that would do very well. Especially with like the tie-in. If the movie is good, we've already seen examples of it with Fallout. If the product is good on a cinematic scale, it will sell video games. I think it would make a lot of synergy. It would make a lot of sense.
I mean this. I would be so excited at the idea of a Borderlands or a Borderlands 2 remake. Borderlands 2 is one of my favorite video games of all time. I've said this before on this show. I've said it multiple times on stream. Handsome Jack is my favorite video game villain of all time. So the idea of a remade or remastered Borderlands would be so cool. But also, again, BioShock stands the test of time until the history of gaming ends.
Yeah, of course.
BioShock is an incredible game and series as well. So I don't know. I'm excited at the idea of either of those. But honestly, all these titles like the Darkness, XCOM, Mafia, it's very interesting.
Yeah, I know they've made a Mafia 2 remake before.
Yes.
Darkness, I don't think has had a remake, but I do remember them saying they were making a new Darkness title at one point. I don't know if that is actually still happening. Spec Ops, I would be very surprised if it came back. It seems like military shooters have kind of gone away and have all kind of just been sucked into the one Call of Duty game. Although Spec Ops The Line is an incredible video game. It has a crazy story.
Unbelievable.
Very surprising. If you've never played it and you would like to go and play a game, just be blindsided. Don't read anything. Go play it.
Yep. Don't read anything about it. Yep.
So yes, either way, one way or another, whatever game they are working on, I think that's a great idea. I hope for more BioShock, but as well as someone who's just downloaded Borderlands 3 to try and jump back in on co-op for a little bit, I wouldn't mind a Borderlands,
Oh, Uno, you saying that, me and you at some point, I know our schedules are wild. We gotta play Borderlands 3 together,
let's
dude.
do it. Let's do it. I just downloaded on my PS5 again, so I'm down for sure.
Awesome, for sure. You just got me so excited, man.
All right, last little piece of news here. This one is about Palworld. Palworld, known as the that Steam video game, also I believe on Xbox Game Pass as well. A lot of people are comparing to Pokemon with guns. Quite literally, you capture creatures, you bring them back to your hut. It does not play the same way as a Pokemon because you have kind of a colony, a survival aspect to a video game. But yes, those Pokemon can have guns. It's blown up. It's sold a ton over the last year. And just recently as last Tuesday, the developer Pocket Pair announced Palworld Entertainment, which is a brand new company created with Sony Music Entertainment and its anime subsidiary, Aniplex. So the hope is, from what they've said publicly, is that it will accelerate the global development of Palworld and its expansion in hopes of creating a Palworld anime. Do you think, because, when this initially came out, there was a lot of hoopla, especially because it's so close to Pokemon. There was even, I believe there's a lawsuit, if I remember correctly.
Is there? I know that was rumored, but I don't know if that actually
I don't know if it was actually filed or not. But a lot of people have compared it to Pokemon. Do you think if it gets an anime, if it jumps into like other medias, is this a property that could go further? Do you think Palworld is going to stand the hands of time like Pokemon has?
Ooh, so I think, my goodness. So I think Palworld clearly already is very successful.
Agreed.
And it is about to grow even further, potentially, which is amazing news. But to say that anything is going to be the next Pokemon is very hard for me to mentally process.
I also think like Pokemon served itself to children, and you could get the Pokemon figures, you can get the plushies and stuff. Palworld is the same type of characters, but they're holding guns. I don't think you're gonna see a Palworld plushie in a Walmart, for example.
Sure.
I would be very surprised if it gets to that level, but an anime would be cool.
But that's the other thing though too. I hope it continues, and I think it will. I think Palworld in that universe will continue to expand and grow and be even more successful. I love the idea of anytime a gaming company gets the chance to express themselves and it's successful and it creates this community of people who love playing the game and love being in that world is such a positive, awesome thing. But I think Palworld and the team there would probably say the same thing. Like, we're not even going to think about what Pokemon is, even though there are similarities, obviously.
Oh, they definitely want to distance themselves at this point, for sure, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's honestly, and I've played it. It is actually quite different from Pokemon. I think on a face value, it has a lot of similarities because of the creature looks, like the way the creatures look. But it is vastly different. It is a survival game. Go on,
Uno,
please.
Uno, I still have not played. I've been meaning to play Palworld, but would you recommend it? So me personally, I'm not a fan, but I also am not a fan of survival games in general. Where chopping down trees and trying to get 7 different items to create a lamppost, like that stuff doesn't interest me. Trying to like stay alive by eating food, but it is one of those, and it seems very serviceable, and they keep updating it. So if that is your type of game, I think it definitely has benefits to it and is a lot of fun. Awesome. And they've expanded so much since its original early access release as well. And who knows what else it's going to get into in the future. Right. Okay, cool.
Well, that's it for news this week, but that's not all. Right after the break, we will be answering your community mailbag questions right after this. And we're back. Welcome to our community mailbag segment. That's right. You can get your questions answered by myself and the Chugs, your host of All Elite Arcade. All you got to do is go to tbs.com/arcade mailbag. That is tbs.com/arcade mailbag. And we can answer your question on the next podcast. Please do send your questions. We do enjoy seeing them. It helps us discuss video games. You know,
yes.
It gives us new subjects. It makes us reminisce about things. We genuinely do like seeing those questions. So please, if you get the chance, go to tbs.com/arcade mailbag.
Yes, and Uno, very quickly, we have talked about this off the podcast so many times. This is one of my favorite segments of the show. So please continue to send your questions. We love hearing what you guys have to say or what questions you have.
We have 4 questions today. I will start today with Raphael. Raphael says, "Hey guys, after playing through all of Remedy Entertainment's games from the first Alan Wake to Alan Wake 2 and its DLC, they may be my favorite game developer studio right now. The stories they tell and the way they tell those stories is incredibly unique and nothing short of amazing. Do you guys have any favorite game studios? And if so, what are they? Thanks and have a wonderful day." And we'll have a wonderful day to you, Raphael. I will tell you another one, but I will start with a cop-out answer because he mentioned it, or she, Raphael, be it female or male. I think Remedy Entertainment is one of the best developers currently on all consoles. They make incredibly unique cinematic games. They have an insane branching multiverse story between their video games. They have a great sense of humor. Aesthetically, they're stylish like almost no other dev is. I personally love Remedy games again, a ton. And so that is my cop-out answer, but I will take one. I will get you a better answer after your suggestion as well.
Hey, Uno, that's not a cop-out answer at all. That's a great answer because I agree. Remedy is just an amazing, amazing studio. There are so many different studios for me that come to mind. Ones like Bungie and 343 for Halo. Ones like From Software with the Dark Souls series and Elden Ring and stuff like that. But there's 2 that I really do want to highlight. And one being CD Projekt Red. Who made the Witcher games. They're working on a new trilogy. Also, the incredible Cyberpunk 2077 with the amazing Phantom Liberty DLC. I pretty much know when I play a CD Projekt Red game, it's going to be a memorable story, incredible experience that I remember forever. But the other studio I want to talk about is Moon Studios, the creators of Ori and the Blind Forest and Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Those 2 games. Well, again, when you talk about playing a video game that sticks with you forever, I know I've mentioned this before, so I hate to keep bringing it up. I apologize for people who have heard it. But if I listen to the main theme of Ori and the Will of the Wisps, it makes me emotional. That's how powerful that game was to me across the board. And they also recently made No Rest for the Wicked, which is a game I've been meaning to try because it looks absolutely awesome. But yeah, CD Projekt Red and Moon Studios, you guys are incredible.
And I did give you a cop-out answer, but I will give you one that is not Remedy games. Myself, I'm really into Obsidian Entertainment. You might know them. Like, the one that really started it for me was Fallout New Vegas. But since then, I've tried to, grab anything that they do that's story-focused. New Vegas might be my favorite Fallout property ever made.
A lot of people say that.
In a lot of ways, if they could just put it into a newer engine, I would just play that again at any time, at any point. But they also made The Outer Worlds, which was very good. It's a Fallout-esque video game, which was very interesting. A great game, bunch of good story stuff in that. They also made Pentiment, which I gave a 10 out of 10 a couple of years ago, which is kind of like a literature based point and click game where you have to investigate murders and stuff. It's a super interesting game. So they make great storytelling games. They're going to make also, they announced just recently, Avowed, which will be coming out later this year. They have not showed that much of the game, and I'm very curious to see more of it before. Like, I can't talk about it in depth because I don't know too much about it, but they have such pedigree from the studio that I'm sure it will be an incredible game for sure.
Yeah. Raphael, great question.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your question.
Thank you so much.
And number 2 question from Clement.
Or Clément. I'm not sure. Maybe you're French. Maybe you're we'll find out. Let us know in the comments down below.
That's true. Thank you so much for your question. And they say, hey, Chugs and Uno, what was the first game that required you to use a strategy guide or made you search for help on the internet? Truly love the show and the absolute joy and sense of serenity it brings me each and every week. Thank you. Well, thank you, Clement. Thank you very much. Yes, there is a game that immediately comes to mind for me, and that was the original Final Fantasy VII on the PlayStation 1. I remember me and my brother playing this game, and we loved it, but we were really young, really young when this game came out. And we were often confused on where to go or what to do. And that was one of the first strategy guides that we ever bought. A friend of mine calls strategy guides cheater books, by the way. I just thought that was funny. Or strategy guide or cheater book. But yes, that was one of the first guides that we ever got. And just religiously looked through this to kind of figure out where to go, what to do, and things like that. So yeah, I'm going to say the FF7 strategy guide was the first one that I used. Great question.
Surprisingly enough, I think the first one I ever owned was, and I guess it depends on what came out first, but I had the Ocarina of Time book, and I also had the Final Fantasy VII book. Like, those games were so big that I felt like I needed to know everything about them. And so I really had a deep dive into both those games, and I owned the physical books. But the first one that comes to my mind, because I remember doing this when I was a kid, is I used to play Maniac Mansion, which is like a point-and-click game. And at
Dave's theme, one of the best songs in gaming.
Yes,
I don't care what anyone says.
Agreed. Those games are so good. I'm a big point-and-click guy, and a lot of the times, especially back in the day, the puzzles were quasi impossible because they did not make logical sense. And so a lot of times what I'd have to do if I was stuck somewhere is I would go to GameFAQs or something and get a walkthrough and just get to that one part, do that one element, and proceed further. I remember Maniac Mansion being a big one. After doing that, I also played the Maniac Mansion game on the NES, and I had to do the same thing as well. At the time, I emulated it on a computer, but later did buy it. Please do not tell the authorities. Thank you very much for that question. I genuinely like the concept of those books. Like Tunic, for example, where they built it into the actual video game. I wanted that printed out. Dude. It was so cool. I remember the Super Mario World one. I miss booklets.
I miss them so much. I recently, Uno, I'm going to be honest.
Yep.
Recently it ended, and I have to, when I move, I'm going to get it changed. But I still subscribe to Game Informer magazine.
Really?
I love looking through stuff.
Yes, of course.
I do.
I love physical media.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you very much, Clement, for your question. Next one comes from Caleb. Excuse me for my voice once again. I am sick. Yo, guys. Love the pod. I'm a huge collector of both retro and modern third-party handhelds. Just the other day, I was cleaning my garage, and I randomly stumbled upon a box that had my old Nokia N-Gage. Whoa. Good on you. Wow. I was wondering, do you guys collect any modern or retro third-party consoles or handhelds? If so, which ones? This is from Caleb. Now, I know you're going to take a major part of this. I right behind this curtain, I have my cabinet that has all my consoles in it. I do not have nearly as many as you, but I do have a lot of the weird third-party ones. You know, I've got like Tiger handheld. I've got an Ouya. I believe that might be the only two I have right now. But I have like Sega CD. I've got Genesis. I've got the obviously the Super Scope. I have all kinds of stuff in there. But I know I do not have the collection of consoles you do because you have been trying to get every single one.
Hey, Uno, that sounds like a great collection, though. That little description, that sounds really good. But I'm still working on mine. But Uno, you are correct. I have a fair amount of handheld consoles that I'm trying to collect. Honest to God, everyone who's listening at All Elite Arcade, in my new game room, I know I mentioned this at the top of the episode, but I'm trying to build a game room that almost looks like a museum. And I've made some pretty good progress as far as my collectibles. For example, I recently got a Microvision, which is in the box. Again, the Microvision was the first handheld console with interchangeable cartridges. So that was a very big deal. I have an original Game Boy in the box. I have a Game Boy Pocket, a Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance. Again, all of these in the box. But also things like a oh my goodness, the Sega Game Gear I have as well, still in the box with games. I have an Atari Lynx, which was Atari's foray into jumping into the handheld console market. And actually, believe it or not, just a couple weeks ago, I recently picked up a Neo Geo Pocket Color, which is also in the box.
In box as well?
In box
That's
as well.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, my thing for me is I love the idea of collecting these consoles and having them in the original box with the booklets and things like that. I definitely still have some more work to do as far as collecting more handheld consoles, but I've made a pretty decent dent in the mainstream console market for sure.
Are they? Do they have the plastic sheeting over top, or has they been opened?
No. I think including home consoles on your television, I think I maybe have 2 or 3 consoles that are still in the plastic.
I prefer it that way because I like to go through the box and like like seeing the manual. I like to see the packaging. Like like we could have another discussion in the future about this, but I think like especially nowadays in the 9th generation, like console or just hardware packaging is so fascinating to me. So like to have the old NES in a box and be capable of seeing like the entire box and like, oh, this is what they advertise when you open it, what's the first thing you see and all that. Like I love that experience. I would hate to own anything still in the plastic. I know it has more value, but I want to fidget and play with it. Like that's how I am for sure.
No, Uno, I am the exact same. Like when I will get a console or a handheld console, the first thing that I do is open that box and see that everything is in there, and then look through the booklet or actually look at the console, and then I end up putting it back to go back into the box. But I agree. For me, it almost feels more valuable when it's opened in really good condition versus being in the plastic. But I understand why being in the plastic is the way to go. But I do. I love looking through it as well. I agree.
Yeah, of course. It's going to have more value if you're looking to resell it in the future for sure. Thank you, Caleb, for your question.
Yes, Caleb, thank you so much. And we do have one more question for everybody. And this is from B Nobody. B Nobody, thank you very much. Hello, friends. I have said numerous times that I will die on the hill that Def Jam Fight for New York is the best fighting game ever created and one of the best wrestling games of all time. Did y'all partake in the Def Jam games back in the day? More importantly, if you could say one phrase before a match that everyone would hear, what would you say or shout, probably?
All right, I have a lot of opinions on Def Jam. I actually kind of agree. Those video games, I don't understand why we haven't made more of them. It's been almost 20 years since Vendetta, which I believe was the sequel. Well, no, wait. Was Fight for New York the sequel, or was Vendetta the sequel?
I
don't remember
Fight
the order.
for New York was the first one.
Okay.
I think, but I'm literally just saying that. So
there was a Def Jam icon. There was, but that was not at all the same type of fighting game. I believe those games are incredible. It melts together two worlds. I would love if that happened nowadays. I don't know how that would work because I don't know if the world of hip hop would collaborate on a video game nowadays for sure. But I thought it was fascinating to have like real life properties. It kind of was like a celebrity deathmatch, but in a pro wrestling world, which is like what I love. You know, like pro wrestling being my main passion in life. I love the game. I love the story mode. I loved creating a character. I love the insane maneuvers that were rendered within it. Like I remember you could put a person in a vertebreaker and do a backflip into a vertebreaker. Stuff that is impossible to do in most video games. I agree. And if I was going to say a phrase, because that's what they do in the Def Jam games, I would say Put me in a video game. That would be my phrase.
Ooh.
Yes. Yes.
Ooh, Uno, I hate that your answer was so good.
Thank you.
Because I feel like I have to change what I'm going to say, but you just said it perfectly.
Oh, be a contrarian. Be a contrarian.
I will say this. I agree with everything that Uno said. Again, Def Jam to this day, actually, funny enough, literally Def Jam Fight for New York. My birthday was a little bit ago, and I was home and I got to hang out with my brother, who I game with often. And one of the games that we played was Def Jam Fight for New York, and we just had an absolute blast. That game still holds up to this day. Like, it's an amazing game. But Uno, I agree with everything that you said. And then as far as my phrase, you know what? I'm going to go Master Chief. I'm going to say finish the fight. That's what I'm going to say.
Oh, pretty good.
I'm going to finish the fight before I hit the final blow. But then also I'm going to whisper, please put me in a video game. I'm going to do that too.
Hey, if y'all make a new Def Jam, I'll drop a rap album right now. Put me in that video game. I will record one. I'll sign a contract. Let me into your
Uno, I'll be the feature.
Yeah, that's right.
Album.
Yes, that's
I'll
right.
Be the feature.
That's right. Put both of us in there while we're at it. Let me fight Busta Rhymes, okay? That is it for today's community mailbag. If you want your questions answered, go to tbs.com/arcade mailbag. And then also, let us know down below what third-party handheld consoles you have been recently buying for your collections, as well as do you purchase strategy guides, and what was your latest strategy guide that you purchased? I don't even know if they make them for current games anymore.
You know, I don't know if they do either, but I'm still collecting them, Uno.
Yeah.
I actually, it's funny that you bring up strategy guides, because I recently purchased a Ocarina of Time strategy guide.
Hey, my first one. Perfect.
Yeah, I love them.
They're so cool. They're so cool.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, that will be it for this week's episode of All Elite Arcade. Make sure you follow us on youtube.com/awgames to see the video format. You can find myself everywhere as Evil Uno. Chugs, you will be moving, but we could find you on Twitch at The Chugs.
Yes, I am moving this week, so it's going to be a pretty hectic week, but I promise I'm going to get back on a very consistent stream schedule. I still have to finish the Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. It would not be an All Elite Arcade unless we bring up Elden Ring.
Of course.
So I will be back on that, twitch.tv/thechugs very soon.
All right, and if you can, hit that follow button down below and subscribe to our podcast or YouTube channel and find out when the next episode of All Elite Arcade drops. It's every Monday, by the way. We will see you next week for another one of this podcast. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Yeah, see you, everybody.